breaking news coming in. Skeppii has reportedly been suspended, or so the rumor is, that he's been suspended, banned, whatever it may be, whatever you may call it. This is the rumor going around, and I'm here to ask you, do you really believe this? Thing is that Flashpoint would have to be the ones who's suspending him. Sources within Flashpoint are saying that they may be thinking about it or maybe doing it. There's no confirmation of that. There's also sources from within Skillshot saying that nothing has been reported to them and that he is not banned, he is not suspended by the league itself. So for all we know, Skeppii is able to play from their point of view. Maybe if the team, the org, if they decide to bench him, then that is up to them, and they have the power to do so. For those of you who don't know, this is all because he's been accused of using mouse and keyboard in the PCL Week 1 match in their victory over Aerial Rise here in Phase 2. And if you ask me, this is just ridiculous, okay? Aerial Rise accusing, I don't know who it is on the team accusing Skeppii of this, but I think this is ridiculous. This is absurd. Skeppii has been playing in the console competitive scene of Paladins for well over 2 years now. He's been to 5 LANs, 6 if you count MSI. Now at MSI, he did use mouse and keyboard, but for those other 5 LANs, he was using controller on camera. He was playing the same champions. So in Week 1, he played Victor Game 1, he played Willow Game 2, and he played Lex in Game 3. These are the same champs he's been playing for years. This entire time with a controller. He's played Willow a bunch of times. He's played Lex, most notably the Frozen Guard map that they won the Summer LAN with, where he was on Onslaught using a controller. If you look back at the Spring LAN when he was with Fable, that was a big deal because he's not able to use the controller to the highest potential of his normal self because he was injured. Remember, he cut his hand, had a bunch of stitches, so that really hurt his ability to use the controller. So I don't understand why he's being accused of this. This goes with the can't beat him, ban him thing that I've been saying for all of this time, which is also with some of the people I've been looking on Twitter recently, and there's a lot of smack talk going around, and that's fine. Smack talk is healthy. BM is healthy, but not in a negative sense. You know, if someone says, oh, you can, suck my, don't respond with the same kind of language or the same kind of tenacity. You can if you word it correctly, if you're smart enough, if you can play the Twitter game properly. But if you just plain out say your mother sucks Giga D, then that could be used against you. And players have been suspended for things like this, worse than this, and even not as bad as that. So, but going back to Skeppii, first of all, he's playing on PS4. There's not natural keyboard support. There is, you can plug and I can confirm this, I've done this at home on my PS4, and I've done this at the play tests at Hi-Res Studios as well. You can plug your mouse and keyboard into a PS4 and use it on the menu screens of Paladins. You can also, when you're in the game, you can click a button on the keyboard or the mouse and it'll bring up the bindings, but it won't work. It won't let you play. I've tried to see if it works. It doesn't. You need a Zim. And I don't think that Skeppii would go out of his way to acquire one of those just to play on PS4 with mouse and keyboard with 30 frames per second and the lag potential of a mouse and keyboard, especially when he's playing on EU ping because he's a North American player. This doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. It doesn't. That's 2 years of controller frags down the drain. So if he is getting benched by Flashpoint, it would not be by the league. And if so, that means IOnlyOutB would have to step into that Flex 2 role. He is a fairly good flex player. He's a better tank than he is a damage player. He's won a LAN with them at Spring, so he can fill the shoes of Skeppii, maybe not as entirely as skillful as Skeppii, but skillful nonetheless. Does this make them weaker if that were to happen? Yes. Is it enough not to make LAN or the playoffs? No, they're not that weak. They're still the strongest team in their region. Maybe they lose a game or two, but that's pretty much about it. Moving on, we have the scores recap. So let's quickly go through these because there's 8 matches every week for PCL. Remember, there's 16 teams. So Flashpoint versus Aerial Rise Flashpoint was able to beat Aerial Rise 3-0. Goodlad is back, and he's still a top-tier player. He showed that. He will be playing the Makoa most likely. I know they were talking about, oh, they're drafting a Makoa. Oh, I can't wait to see Legacy play it. Well, World's not there anymore. We'll get into that in a little bit later, but Legacy's moved back to those main tanks, So Goodlad able to play those main tanks, but he'll most likely be the Makoa in this situation. If you look back when they were on the same team together and Legacy was playing that Makoa, is because Goodlad was playing the DPS role at the LAN, which they won, where Legacy went 39-0, and everyone just has this Makoa stuck in their head. Skeppii was accused of MNK. We've been over that. Prosper continues to showcase why he is the #1 MVP candidate. Even with the teammates that he has, he is still doing a ton of damage, and he's outdoing a lot of players. Aaron Manor was able to beat Stush Gaming 3-0. This was surprising, but not surprising at the same time. Aaron Manor has a new lineup. They have better players than they did last phase. Technically, on paper, some of those players haven't played in a while, like iTeek, and Barcode as well. iTeek longer, though, hasn't played since 2018. So looking forward to see how well they do. Stush Gaming, a little bit surprising. Not as much because they were the 4th place team again, but they're the only ones that take maps off of Flashpoint, as everyone continuously mentions. And plus, they haven't made any roster changes. So it's not that surprising to me. I know I've been one of the people adamant saying, you don't need to make roster changes. You don't need to make roster changes. Well, Stush Gaming, as I've said in the roster video, you can check that out after this one. They need to make a change, whether it's 1 or maybe 2. They're needed. Onslaught, able to beat Nemesis 3-1. My question is does Sir James Parker care? He comes back from his suspension. There's rumblings that he was just subbing. There's other rumblings that he's on the main roster again. But, I mean, I think SJP could be the best, if not second best player in the world on console if he just tried. And it seems like he's not. And I think that's a big problem. Because if you have someone on your team who's not trying, then it's going to cause for concern. Flame Effects. Coming from Sanguine's PML, that's a PC team, so he'll be playing with the console boys. Hopefully he continues to. I like seeing him on console. I like seeing him in that lineup. I think it'll bring a new variety of Paladin's competitive knowledge to him alone. And also, is he used to console? That's one of the questions. And if not, hopefully he gets used to it. If Nemesis were to make land, they can use mouse and keyboard there in the crossplay section, so that would be a plus for them. Someone as experienced on keyboard and mouse as him. So hopefully he sticks around. Onslaught. Most of them changed their names, so they have a fresh start, kind of. I like that. Swarmso and Onishi, which was the other shutter, looked improved, but I still think that they're the weakest links on this team. I still think that the main tank position could be upgraded to a better main tank. I still think that they need an off tank that can play Makoa or could play these off tanks at a higher level. But they did look better than they did in all of Phase 1, so big ups to them on that. Hydra was able to defeat Stremix 3-1. Stremix came out firing in Game 1 and took that victory. But then after that, it's like they got hit with cold water, a tsunami, a Hydra. Tsunami, to be exact. Bad pun. But Hydra was able to keep them to minimal kills. I think there was a game where the 2 rounds, Stremix had 1 kill. And they ended up getting 4-0, I think. So very difficult. They were able to struggle everywhere after Game 1. And that was a big problem. One of the things that really impressed me was Business on his Makoa, especially. He's back on those off tanks, and this is where he belongs. He's not the best off tank. He's not a great off tank, but he's a really good off tank, and he needs to continue to play those and get better and improve on those off tanks. You know, he's tried playing main tank. It doesn't work for him. He's tried playing DPS. It doesn't work for him. He's tried doing all these other things. It doesn't work. Stick to off tank and improve on something that you're actually good on. And that would be my advice to him. Mwadak also impressed me. Looked a lot better. Looks like he's been improving his gameplay and more so his game sense. I know I ragged on him a lot in phase 1 when he was just getting railed from behind, wouldn't turn around. It's like he was playing with headphones on full of music. So he looked a lot better this time, although Hatsuchibi made a lot of saving grace plays to help him once again. But Mwadak was looking better, especially on those champs that he's come to be so good on, like Victor and the Vivian. Cyclone versus Bust Down. Cyclone was able to win 3-1. Cyclone, they're still on top in their division, I think, right now, despite having all of these roster changes that they've had to have. And I think that the roster could potentially see more changes. I know Slopadopoulos is no longer on All Business. He was main tanking for them, and he, the PML Team All Business, they say he just can't play main tank at the level that they want. He doesn't want to play main tank either. He wants to play DPS, specifically Blaster. So we'll see how that goes. Will he come back into this lineup for Cyclone? Who knows? Paradogo versus top players such as Cyclone. Didn't look great, but he did look good. Most notably his Eevee in game 1. That was very interesting to watch. And they won that game. So props to him for helping them get that win. Emmerfish and Styles, like I said in the roster video, I think Emmerfish doesn't necessarily understand that this is the best case scenario for him playing in the PCL, and it's better for him to play in the Xbox EU region because there's teams that could give him competition, could beat him, and then there's teams that he could give competition and beat them as well. And it's more equal than playing in the Xbox NA region where he's going to get railed by Elevate one day, and then the next week he's going to rail, the 4th place team maybe. So whatever it may be. And for Styles, I'm just glad he's back in the PCL. He had one match. He played in one match, so one set. Remember, a match is a set. A game is a map. So he played in one match in phase 1 for Bust Down. He played really well and looked like he could be the Styles that won HRX back in early 2018 again. So props to him, and hopefully he continues to improve. Vroom Froom versus GPS. Vroom Froom was able to win 3-1. That's the French squad. So Slaya is from GPS, totally new roster, but even though they lost, this roster shows promise. He's overhauled this roster. So hopefully that they get better. He's brought back Lexi Zen, great healer, has been to pretty much every LAN besides MSI. He has Smutney on the team now as well, who played with Cyclone when they went to LAN. So decent lineup, just needs to work on some chemistry, work some things out, and start getting some W's in their name. For Vroom Froom, however, the French lineup actually show up. I remember they tried to make into the PCL phase 1, but I think it was Valerian had some broken fingers, or there was some injuries, like real-life injuries, that affected their play, and ultimately they weren't able to stay as good as they were, and they didn't qualify, basically. I think that Naiju and Ninja Zen work well together, and I've said this a dozen times in the past. Naiju tried flexing to other things, didn't really work, no consistency. Ninja Zen, no consistency in playing competitively, was off, was on, was playing, was not playing. So here they are again, and they're playing there, and Naiju's on the off tanks, and Ninja Zen's on the main tank. So hopefully they rekindle what they once were together and are able to improve together and help their team get some W's as well. Xbox North America, Elevate versus Cats on Mars. Elevate, of course, wins 3-0. Pretty much, Elevate is just Elevate right now. There were rumblings that Exodia was going to be dropped from the team, but he's still on the team, so that's good for him. And I think it's good for Elevate overall. They don't have to change anything. They can still go in with the same chemistry, same team play that they've had all season long, so that's good for them. Cats on Mars have a DPS problem, and when I say that, it's because they lose G-Pan Velocity, they lose Cool Matt, and now they have Ian Hart and Regan. I think Regan's an okay flex, but he's a better DPS than he is flex, but he's not that great of a DPS, if you understand what I'm saying. There are quirks to him that hold him back. And Ian Hart, one of the new players in the scene for the PCL. Again, if you play in PCS, you've played in the console wars, that's all good and all, but I'm only looking at PCL experience now because that's the tried and continued. In the PCS you play in week 1 of open bracket, and if you qualify, you don't play again until week 4. So you're only really facing teams maybe once, maybe twice if you're lucky. and you're only playing twice if you qualify the first time. And if you're a bottom tier team, then you're playing all 4 weeks because you're struggling to qualify. So with the PCL, you're playing consistently. There's a set schedule. You're playing these teams every single week, week in, week out. You're playing the same teams in the same division. You can study your opponents more closely now. So I think that this is the more true tested battlegrounds for Paladins competitive. And Ian Hart hasn't had that much experience within it. He is doing well right now, but it's not super well. Or I should rephrase that. He's doing okay along with Regan, but Cats on Mars struggling if they're going to keep this DPS combo. The roster is pretty much falling apart as well. Mr. Pickles, don't know why he wasn't able to play, but I heard that he's still captain. He's still going to be playing. So they had to bring in Chahotink. I don't think she has as deep of a champ pool skill-wise as Mr. Pickles. Again, Mr. Pickles, not that deep of a champ pool either, but we'll see how the Cats on Mars will move forward with roster unlocks happening in week 2, I think. Don't quote me on that. East Storm versus Wasted Potential. East Storm actually beat Wasted Potential 3-2. This is the only set out of all 8 console game, matches to go the full distance of 5 games. So that was very intense and interesting to watch. For Wasted Potential, we'll start with them. X-Pow, he played great for Wasted. And I had found out that he was in their starting rotation for the qualifiers, but once Gpan Velocity joined their team from Cats on Mars, he went into that flex 2 position, which then put Shala down into the DPS role, which moved Pow into the substitute role. But I guess that it's all being reversed now. Pow is going to be the main DPS with Shala on flex 2, and Gpan will be their sub. I think that's a good move. I think that they did it because of... Most likely, I think they did it because Gpan's schedule issues or something of that matter. But I believe it's a good move because if you watch those games, which will be uploaded later today, by the way, hopefully, they will be uploaded, don't worry. If you watch those games, Gpan was struggling a lot, especially on champs that he's so familiar with, like the Drogos and the Bomb King. So those were problems within themselves. This was a 5-game set, like I mentioned, but it wasn't a sloppy one. You remember watching E-Storm and Retaliation in Phase 1 a few times, especially the longer sets. They were just drawn-out TDM lookalikes with a payload in the middle of the map. And they were very sloppy. They were very disgusting to watch, if you ask me, to put it for a lack of better words. But this one didn't look like that. You know, when there were moments where teams should reset, these teams were resetting, both East Storm and Wasted. They were playing as if they've been in this position before. They were playing as if they were a higher tiered team than they actually are, in my opinion. And it looked really good. East Storm already has improved dramatically team play-wise, not mechanically. There's still there's still plenty of room to improve with their mechanical skills for each individual player. But as a team, with their team tactics and their strategies, they looked a lot better. Their drafts could still be worked on, but they made some roster adjustments by moving people around. And they've also brought in T-Temper, which I think is the same Temper that played for Retaliation last season or last phase. So he did very well for them. Counter on main tank, he's still dying a lot, but it's better than him being the DPS dying so much. I think he has a DPS mentality, but he kind of wants to play up front like a main tank. So I think this is a better move from them. Bringing in their coach Zetha seems to have worked out well. They went 3-0 in relegations, and now here they are going 3-2, winning their first set of the PCL. So awesome for them to do that. Next, we have the PML. So this one, Sour Team versus Penta. Penta's pretty much been stripped apart of all the good things besides Ovum. He still has visa issues, so he can't go to the PPL. Accentra apparently is in the military, so that is something holding him back from going to the PPL. But he will still remain as the coach / sub for Penta. They brought in Ninu. That's a good pickup for them. Unfortunately, they have to play with 2 subs in the first game. But they ended up getting 3-0'd by Sour Team. Sour Team looking really good, by the way. They have a new roster, so it might take some time to mesh these players together. But is Sour getting Joppy back? That's my question. If not, they look good. Uber Spady replacing Nino, I think, is a 1-for-1 right there. You get someone who's been at the top level of play, and so has Nino. You get someone who can play the Drogos, the Bomb King. These blasters can flex fairly well onto these flanks as well, and that's basically Nino. So I think that's an even trade. So Uber Spady won't be on One Trick Pony this season or for phase 2, which is kind of disappointing because he's grinding with them for the longest time. But I'm glad he gets to go to a team such as Sour Team with Perdo, Sheepa, and other such talent. One Trick Pony actually beat All Business 3-0. This was All Business was using Slopadopoulos, remember, as main tank. He's no longer on the squad. So maybe All Business can make a substitution here, get something better. But my question is where's Bugsy, dude? Where is Bugsy? I didn't catch all of these games towards the end, or I didn't catch game 3. I did catch game 1 and game 2. I actually woke up with a sprained ankle, so I've been in a lot of pain. I don't know how you wake up with a sprained ankle, but that must have been a really intense dream for myself. One Trick Pony, though, show that they weren't a fluke making the PML, making it through PML's relegations. One Trick Pony's been grinding the game. They've been playing in the Paladins Community Cup as well as the Paladins Lure tournaments. They've been winning a good amount of those as well. So I'm happy One Trick Pony makes it through. And plus, they've got a really cool logo, so that's a plus. For PML North America, we have Shadows versus Sanguine. And Sanguine went up 2-0, but they were reverse sweeped ultimately by Shadows 3-2. And that was interesting. Shadows adjustments makes it possible for that. The roster changes through those first 1 or 2 games. And also their drafting kind of changed and was leaning more towards what is Sanguine going to do so that we can stop them. So that was good of them. Stigma is now, Shadows is it took the league spot of Hype. So Stigma was on that team. He goes to Sanguine. Edgem was on Sanguine. He goes to Shadow. So basically they just made a 1-for-1 trade. And if Stigma was in second place, I don't think he's as good as Edgem. Or it doesn't even have to do with second place. But he was in second place behind Edgem's team for the phase 1. And I think Edgem's a better damage player. Although he didn't do so hot this week, maybe some chemistry problems. But that's a 1-for-1 trade basically, and I don't think that was a good trade. I think that Shadows won that, getting Edgem. And also, last but not least, Tay. Tay still shows why, in my opinion, he's the top tank, the top off tank in the North American PML division. So props to him for being able to do that. But up next, we actually have your Smite update for Smite Console League, Smite Minor League, and Smite Pro League with our Smite analyst, Jfro Luntard.
What's up, guys? So we're going to dive into a few Smite things that have been happening in week 1. A lot of them have been revolving around PS4 EU. So for example, I mean, there have been team mix-ups. There's a lot of drama going on. So let's dive right into it. So first off, VGS Gods, one of the worst teams in all of SCL, actually pulled through, and they have this new squad that's incredible. I mean, phase 1 we had Tier Toxic, we had Drizzle, we had OTPC, Marky, and Excellent. They were all okay players, but then they replaced their mid. They replaced OTPC with Claw Legend, who seems to be really working for them, as well as Hacky96, which is their new support. And they actually pulled a 2-0 in MV3, which is crazy because I don't think the entire season they pulled a 2-0. I think they pulled a few wins. I mean, they pulled at least one, but they definitely didn't sweep the entire time during the first phase. But on top of that, we have Bedtime's Calling, who is now picked up by Aerial Rise, which is a few people who are familiar with the PCL know. Know that it's an organization that operates out of PS4 EU for PCL, which is cool because that means that a lot of the stuff from PCL is transferring. I mean, we've seen it with a few of the teams with Sanguine, stuff like that. But they're taking over for Bedtime's Calling. So Aerial Rise actually took Kinder Warrior not took him. He left on his own decision. But Kinder Warrior left Out Cold Gaming Blue for a lot of messed up reasons that I can't really get into right now. If you wanted to get into it, I'll let them get into it, and I'll let Out Cold make the announcement if they want to. But there's a little bit of drama there that caused him to leave. He used to be the jungler, for those who don't know, for Out Cold Gaming Blue, and now he's the mid for Bedtime's Calling. So this week is going to be playing. I can confirm that, and I can't wait to see it because they're playing this week. I got to double check my notes, but they're playing this week, and he's actually going to be playing and on the roster. So good for him. I do want to see what they're going to be doing like against each other, because it'd be awesome to see Out Cold Gaming Blue versus Bedtime's Calling, because they were like the top 2 teams in all of the PS4 EU. So I'm excited to see what it's going to be like. Week 5, we got a little bit of time. We got like 4 more weeks until we actually get to see them compete. But they're going to be going through, and they're going to be playing each other in week 5. So we'll see how they're doing. Aria Cruz, the sub that used to be for Out Cold Gaming Blue, is now their jungle, in case you were wondering who they're replacing. But yeah, they got Aria Cruz now as their jungle. But Kinder Warrior, man, he's incredible. But seeing him on mid, we'll see. I mean, it's cool seeing the players like flip-flop, but I mean, for a guy who's known for jungle, we'll see, man. So on top of that, we have a lot of new teams that people may have noticed already. A lot of new teams coming in from that weren't in Phase 1 or were, and kind of like changed around. So for Xbox NA, Fatal Ambition, all new to the SCL. We have not seen them before. I can't speak for last year, but I know a lot of these guys are new this year. So it's cool to see what they're doing. I mean, this week they lost, unfortunately, to SN. Oh, no, they won. What am I talking about? I'm looking at my notes. They won this week against Sanguine, which is awesome. Sanguine is probably one of the better teams in Xbox. Okay. God, I had to catch my breath. This is incredible. But yeah, they're one of the better teams in Xbox NA. But things are changing. I think Teep left, and it's going to be... We'll see how they're doing. But Fatal Ambition, all new to the SEL. They pulled out a 2-0 this week, which is awesome. On top of that, Heat Uprise, gone. They no longer exist. They disbanded. In case you were wondering where they were, they are now Blanche Esports. Blanche Fan Club. So many esports. Look, guys, I'm trying, all right? I'm trying to get you guys' names, but so many people have esports. So many people have esports after their names, and kind of hard to distinguish the ones that don't know. But Blanche Fan Club is now most of Heat Uprise. Erupts Crimson, actually, though, he's no longer with them. He moved over to Hype Unit to replace Griff. And Griff, as we know, left on his own accord. It wasn't on bad terms, as far as I know. Can't really say too much about the team. Talk to them if you're worried about stuff. But Heat Uprise is gone. Blanche Fan Club. We got E-Boy. They got those E-Boys gone wild over in PS4 NA. I think I really love that team. It's incredible. I just like the idea of E-Boys gone. Original Spartans leading them. He was over. I can't say he competed in Phase 1 off the top of my head. If it was for a brief amount of time. But he's leaving them over in PS4 NA. On top of that, we have Hive Central, which was EP, the European powerhouse, over in Xbox EU. And it's cool and interesting because Reform Mango, who was suspended in Phase 1 from Dobos, is now back as a support. He was a jungler on Dobos, for the record, before that whole thing happened with Rival, and he got suspended, and there were a lot of suspensions that season. How about Phase 2 we don't do that, guys? That'd be awesome. Then Team Jellyfish is also going over to Xbox EU. They're also new. They're new to Phase 2 and the SEL. As far as I can tell, a few of their members may have competed in previous years, but sure. But for next week, for this week, week 2, I'm excited. The match that I'm looking most forward to is Out Cold Gaming Blue versus VGS. The top team of Phase 1 and the bottom team of Phase 1 for PS4 EU. See, I'm like super into PS4 EU right now because last phase, it was all about Xbox NA with hype and like that the Heat hype, like the competition between the two was awesome. But this starting off Phase 2, I'm looking towards across the water. Yeah, So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to Alcohol Gaming Blue and VGS playing next week. VGS used to be the worst, and now they have a new roster. And Alcohol Gaming Blue also has a new roster. They've changed some things around because of the whole scandal that happened. And coming off a win on week 1, like they want to double check. I want to make sure before I say anything. But yeah, they 2-0'd MV3. Like coming off that type of win, that hype when you haven't 2-0'd before, incredible. So it's going to be a good week. It's going to be my personal match of the week, and I can't wait to see it. Or I just can't wait to see it. I'm excited. So yeah, that's basically all I gotta say. Let's go back over to Blue. Remember, wait. Follow me on Twitter at Jfro. You know, a little bit of a plug.
All right, thank you, Jfro. Always a pleasure to talk some Smite with you. Moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about some of these PPL teams. Renegades to start off with. They go 2-0 in week 1, and that's super, super surprising, super ecstatic. I mean, I kind of felt like I had this. I mean, they did have one win, I think, in phase 1, but it was kind of like but they've come out like blazing hot in week 1 here, going 2-0 in phase 2 of the PPL. And I felt like I was watching the Shanghai Dragons get their first win in Overwatch League, and that's how I felt. I think they didn't make any roster changes, is what most people will say. But you're wrong. They got rid of their coach. That's a roster change. Still, there's one less person providing opinions, analysis, breakdowns. One less person included in the team meetings. One less person included in the drafts. So whether they got a new coach or not, I'm still unaware of that. But hey, they got rid of their coach that they had in phase 1, and now they're winning 2-0. Is that a coincidence? Hey, who knows? Kresnik talked about the honeymoon period after roster changes. Now he was referring to the Knights, which we'll get into, but I think this may be Renegades' honeymoon period. No coach is their roster change. So they played much better. I really enjoyed watching those games. And shout out to Hero, man. One of the guys I really look up to when I first started playing Paladins, and still do to this day. And as well as Shadow, man. Shadow's been grinding. Shadow had a really tough time in the PPL last season with Splice, and it's really good to see him come from just that kid streaming in his room at 4 a.m. to going to Splice, making it into the PPL, wow, but getting railed at week in and week out to, hey, we just went 2-0, and Shadow's really improving, man. So shout out to him, shout out to Hero, shout out to the whole squad, Viral, all of them. So looking forward to see if Renegades can continue this success that they had in week 1 throughout phase 2. Up next, we have Knighted, aka there is new Knights in the Pittsburgh family. That is Simsalute and Zarini. I think they showed improvement. First of all, their drafts are improving. They don't have to just pick comfort picks anymore. That has been shown already in week 1. Although, they couldn't come out with a win, but there's a lot of successful things in there. Small things that could be part of a bigger change later down the line. I truly believe that Pittsburgh Knights, with this roster, with Simsalute, Zarini, G Bunny, Ricotta, and Cuss Cutie, I think that this team could really be a top 4 team. I know Ricotta said they're aiming for top 6, but really, I think they could be top 4. I think that Envy and SSG, one of them is going to fall out of that top 4. I think more so it's going to be SSG. I think they're a little bit behind right now. They just lost Kresnik as their coach too, so that hurts them. So it's going to be very interesting to see. But I'm wishing them the best. They look better in their drafts. They look better in game as well. Just need to get that team chemistry going and start playing these drafts better with better execution. So I really like how the Knights are looking. Ruse Boos, that's right. Boo-hoo for the Ruse, I would say. Kanga, they look like they're falling apart slowly but surely. They were consistently not consistent in phase 1. They were bad, and they were good, then they were bad, then they were good. Then MSI came around, and they were okay-ish. Ultimately, they didn't make roster changes. And I think that this is the problem with teams like Kanga and Envy. and SSG. It's like Envy. They're these world champions. They've adjusted before. They were doing terrible. Then they won a world championship. And I'm talking with Rock after the Vegas land that they won. I'm not talking pre-Rubu, pre-Rock Monkey. And that's important to remember because I'm going to mention that here in a second. But SSG is that Brazilian squad. It's the Brazilian team. So I don't feel like they want to make roster changes because it would ruin that whole storyline pretty much. With Kenga, they've made some of those changes already. You know, they've changed. They have Jfro, they have Evil Eye. But now it's more like, you know, that has become a family. It seems like it in my eyes, and they don't want to break that up. And then Team Envy, they, you know, like I said, they were a decent team. Then they were a bad team, and they knew that they needed to make some roster adjustments. So they did. They went out and they got Rubu, they got Rock Monkey, and it turned to work out for the better for them. But now it's kind of like they're straying away. It's like, oh, we won the world championship together. We're family. We're brothers. We can get through this. I don't know. I think these three teams really should have made some roster adjustments, whether it was one person or whether it was more than one. I think that Kanga could use some new blood. I think that Envy can fight through this if they can find the solution to their problems. And it looks like they are starting to get that done, getting a little bit better. And SSG, they play great all the time. They just can never finish against those top teams. And I think that's a big problem for them. But moving on, let's talk about free agents. The reason why there's a question mark with this is because of the console locks and the region locks. I'm gonna list off a couple names. Cool Matt, where's he locked to? Is he locked to PS4 NA because he played with Nemesis at MSI? Is he locked to Xbox EU because he played with Bustdown for 2 weeks in Phase 1? Is he locked to Xbox NA because he played for Cats on Mars for most of the season, most of Phase 1? That's the question I have. That's a good player, and the meta's starting to come back into his wheelhouse. You know, he plays a lot of Willow, plays a lot of Strix, plays a lot of Drogos. Those champs are viable more than they were in Phase 1. So he needs to be on a team, and Cats is struggling without him. Next would be World. World said he's going to take a break from competitive Paladins, but that comes after the fact that he's locked to PS4 EU. He left Flashpoint, and in his mind, he's a LAN tier player. Who's left? Who's going to beat Flashpoint in that division? Nobody is what most people would say. Predominantly 99.9% of people would say that. You know, he's not going to go to Aerial Arise. He's not going to go to Stush Gaming, most likely. He's not going to go to Earn Manor. So, I mean, that's the problem with him. He can't leave that division, but he's not going to go to any other team. So that's the problem for World right now. Dovahkiin, could there be an Onslaught return? Like I said earlier, they could use a better tank. Dovahkiin is that better off tank, but is he the solution? Do they need a solution? I think so, even though they just won versus Nemesis. But Dovahkiin, nowhere to be seen either. He's not on Nemesis. He's not on Onslaught. He's probably not going to go to Hydra. He's not going to go to Stremix either. So that's another player. Nowhere to be found. Next would be SoldierBot. But he's left the game on his own decision. ... Again. That's right. Next would be Wildcard. Did he get left out of Phase 2 on purpose? You know, Bust Down doesn't bring him back. He's not on Cyclone. He's not on GPS or Vroom Vroom. Where is he? Why isn't he on a team? That's one of the big questions. It's Whitey. The question I have for It's Whitey is, did he toxically push himself away from an opportunity of playing in Phase 2? I think he's a talented off-tank player, but he's just got I don't feel like people want to deal with that attitude, is what I've been told, and is what I kind of see on Twitter and stuff. Sorrow is the next name. Could be a viable main tank for someone in the PS4 North American division, Will he ever return to the PCL? Probably not. He likes being the whistleblower. I think so. Good player. I wish he'd come back to the PCL. Kev Falcon is another one. Where did he go? He was coaching / subbing for Nemesis at MSI. Thought he was going to be able to join that team because of all their roster problems. He is locked to PS4 NA because he played with Big Money Esports. He's a decent flex player. He can play damage fairly well. He can play tanks fairly well. So if he moves to Nemesis, I think that would have been a good pickup. Instead, they bring in Flame Effects. They still have Whoosh, of course. SJP is back, and Richie's still there. Richie, Jeff, and Whoosh, I think, are the cornerstones of this team. Right now, I think if SJP doesn't want to play, they need to bring someone in. And I think Kev Falcon would be the good fit if they don't bring in Dovahkiin. But Kev Falcon would be the better option because he can play the pip like SJP can. He can play the Grok, and he can also play off tanks. Next would be Cop. Cop's a great player, but he quit the PCL, so that's another one of those ones in the Soldier Bot department. Tariq. He wanted to leave Aerial Arise so bad that he tried to cheat his way into the PCL by playing for another team when he was locked to Aerial Arise. It's not how it works. Then he tried to go to Xbox, I heard. That's not how it works. So where's Tariq now? Just chilling? Just chilling? Because you figured out you can't do whatever you want? Cool. Next player on my mind, actually a double package here, VCon and VClax. Now, I know VCon on Twitter said that he's just going to start reviewing gameplay of PCL games for people to watch on YouTube and streams to kind of help younger and lower tiered players, which is good. That's awesome. I'm glad that he wants to do that. But I still feel like he could be on a team somewhere. I know he used to play tank, and Stush Gaming need a better main tank, in my opinion. VClax, also a main tank. Again, Stush could use a main tank. But VClax, I think, has problems where, you know, he doesn't feel as confident in himself 24/7. So hopefully he can deal with that while not playing the game. That's just a life thing. Clax, man. Don't ever get down on yourself, dude. If you're watching this, just know I've got your back. Someone says something about you, I'm there for you, man. Plus, you've got that little, I'm going to say cute dog, even though I don't like dogs. I know a lot of people are going to hate me for that, but you got that little rut, that little mutt, okay? You can play with that thing all day and just be happy. Next would be Harvey. Harvey was rumored to return. Someone, I'm not going to name names, within Cyclone gave me a roster that they said they were going to be using for week 1, and it had Harvey on it, and then he's not there. Also in this discussion is Westside. What happened to Westside, dude? He was on Cyclone as the support for MSI. He's played frontline and support in the PCL before, most notably Phase 1. He's played for Bust Down and he's played for Radiant. Where's Westside? Did he go off to under deep sea welding again? If so, I understand that's his job. He's got to travel for it. But if not, why is he not on a team? Why would Cyclone get rid of Westside as their support and bring in Kings again? No offense to Kings. He's a great player, but I just don't like Kings on support, man. I think he's a damage player. And then last but not least, the last person I have questions about, GR Crazy. This guy's one of the top, he's a top damage player in Paladin's console competitive scene. He's won both HRX events with Elevate. And also, just to let you know, he's a true free agent. He's not locked to any consoles. He's not locked to any regions. He can play EU PS4, EU Xbox, NA Xbox, NA PS4. If Nemesis needs someone, bring him in. Will he fit their chemistry? Will he fit their playstyle? Probably not, because they won't have a blaster at that point. But Richie can flex to those blasters if he's needed to. But where's GR, man? That's crazy. That's a bad pun. I'm sorry. Bad puns all around. Let's talk about the meta shift. Is the meta really shifting? Sort of. I think that a lot of PPL players and some PCL and PML players said that last patch was the healthiest that pro scene was. A lot of characters were viable. I think it's gotten healthier since the IO update because there's even more champions. You have Willow being played a lot in week 1 across all 3 leagues. You have Terminus coming back into play. Now, there is an aim assist problem with him on console, so that's mainly why, but you see him a lot on PC. There's no aim assist problems there. Damage amp is still lingering, so that's still a thing. But Flashpoint versus Aerial Rise, no Torvald bans, no Torvald picks. So that was awesome to watch. That was kind of refreshing. Terminus made an impact, but not the best impact. There was a lot of games where he lost. There was a lot of games where he won. There was certain cases with certain players where you could watch them play Terminus correctly. And we saw all types of Terminus being played as well. I remember Izzy Tyler from Hydra was playing Undying Terminus. There was a bunch of Terminus players, Jehovos, and Struck User, both in the E-Storm, Struck User with E-Storm and Jehovos with Wasted Potential. Both of them were running Crush Term for the Stun Legendary. So that was awesome. And then we saw a lot of Terminus being played by other console and other PML and other PPL teams where they're playing Decimation with the Calamity Blast talent. So it was awesome watching. Lex was really good last patch for like ranked and casuals and stuff, but now he's even better with the legendary shift where he has his old firing rate and a lot of damage output coming in. So cool to watch Lex come back into the meta. It's cool to watch Willow come back in. So it's just really fun to watch these games now, in my opinion. So keep doing your thing, people. So week 2 watch list. What matches do I think you should look out for? Well, first of all, here's a couple things to watch out for. Roster changes. I think it is still in effect where week 2, you no longer have to play with 3 out of the 5 players you played in phase 1 with. So look for full rosters to be coming out for the phase 2 edition of each league. Besides PPL, they've already made their changes. And also another rumor is that Hilltime will be coming back potentially. I really don't see like a huge deal with that. He's not console or region locked, so that's a plus for him. But a lot of people speculated that he used mouse and keyboard, and because he didn't look so good at HRX, that's the reason why. I think that he didn't look good at HRX because he's just not that good of a player, in my opinion. He didn't really stand out to me during the season with Baldy Bunch. And I don't think that using him and benching Cool Matt was the solution, or should have been the plan for HRX. Now I don't think Cool Matt would have fit into the lineup still. I think they still needed a better main tank or off tank. And the problem is because Wonderful at the time thought he was a DPS, so Cool Matt wouldn't have fit in there because they wanted to run double tank, and Wonderful didn't want to run tanks. But now guess what? Wonderful is running tanks again, and his team is dominant. So keep tanking, buddy. So big matches to watch, in my opinion. For the PPL, it has to be Pittsburgh Knights versus Kanga. Where exactly is each team now? Is Kanga decreasing like I said they are? And is Pittsburgh increasing like I said they were? So that's kind of a match for me to look out for. There's not that many PPL matches this week, so bear pickings, but this is a good one. Another good one for PML would have to be 5-Stack versus Sanguine for the North American PML. This is a test for 5-Stack. How good are they? They beat Exile 3-1. So they didn't play Shadows. They didn't play Sanguine. I think those will be the 2 top teams right now. So if 5-Stack, in my opinion, could potentially be a second place, even a first place team. But going up against Sanguine, they're kind of climbing the ladder, so to speak. They face Exile at the bottom, beat them. Next, they've got Sanguine now. If they beat them, cool. And then they'll have their ultimate test of Shadows the week after. So it's a good little test for them. And for Sanguine, this is a good moment for them to bounce back, because going down 0-2 in the PML with teams like Shadow and 5-Stack will not be pretty. For the EU PML, match of the week for me would have to be Sour Team versus One Trick Pony. They're both undefeated after 1 week, of course, but that's not the reason why. One Trick Pony, like I said, they don't have Uber Spady anymore. Instead, he's on Sour Team. Sour Team's made some adjustments. I think that they're, like I said, I thought they were better than Penta back then. I think Penta won MSI. They won their first match against Nemesis, expected. They win their second match, okay, kind of expected. They win that third match against Sour, and it's like, wow, Penta's really good. Then they come in, they beat Na'Vi, and they start rolling on this high. you start winning and gaining more and more momentum with the momentum and adrenaline that you had before. So I think, Penta had a really good run. Congratulations to them, but I don't think they were as good as everyone was trying to make out for them. Individually, the players, there are certain players that are super good, as people were making them out to be, like Simsalou, but I don't think they were like together as a team. Whoa, you know what I'm saying? So I think Sour Team is the best team in this division right now. Going up against One Trick Pony. One Trick Pony is going to have to prove to themselves that they belong in the PML, they belong at the top of the PML, and that they are no one to be messed with, even without Uber Spady on the team anymore. For console, I've picked 2 matches, one for PS4. That would be Nemesis versus Hydra. Hydra pretty much puts Stremix in check, and Nemesis is struggling right now. And we've gone over a bunch of reasons why. So it'll be interesting to see if Hydra's able to pull out a win over Nemesis. Remember, low-key scheming is made, or Hydra's made up of a lot of components that were low-key scheming, and they took a map off of heating up, which is Nemesis. So that was interesting to watch. Can they take a set off of them this time? That's what I'm looking forward to. If they take maps off of them, that kind of sets Nemesis even further back from Onslaught in this chase for first. So it'll be interesting to see, can they win? And if they do win, how convincingly? For the Xbox match of the week, I'd have to go with Cats on Mars versus Wasted Potential. I think that Elevate's going to just walk through eStorm, even with eStorm's improvements happening. But I think that Wasted Potential and eStorm are both better teams than eStorm and Retaliation of Phase 1 were. I think that Cats on Mars could potentially fall to 3rd place here. I think eStorm and Wasted both have chances of taking 2nd over them. And I'm even going to go this far as of right now, this early in the phase, or this early in the second half of the season. I think that Cats on Mars, if they continue with the roster that they have and continue down this woeful path, I think that eStorm and Wasted could both pass them up, and Cats could be a 4th place team. Sad but true. That's my opinion for right now. Prove me wrong so you can BM me some more, Cats. But Wasted Potential, they have promising young talent. X-Pal back in that starting rotation. I think that's good for them. I think G-Pan underperformed. And I'm looking forward to see what Shala can do, because I can't really gauge how good Wasted Potential is going to do without G-Pan, but with Shala in there, because I haven't seen Shala play as much as G-Pan or Pal right now. But that pretty much sums it all up. This has been a new episode of Console Corner. My name is Blue. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter at ConsoleProNews. You can follow me on Twitter at RealBlueTV with no E in blue. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe below. Share the video as well. Let me know in the comments what you think about any of the stuff we've talked about as well. And remember, keep grinding.